In the quiet and remote village of Dadewa, nestled deep within the thick forests of an ancient land, there lived a poor farmer named Okeke and his wife, Amara. 4 years, they toiled the earth, praying for the blessings of the gods to give them a child. One fateful night, under the silver light of a full moon, their prayers were answered. Amara gave birth to a baby girl with skin as pale as the moon itself, and they named her Chidi. But Chidi was no ordinary child. She was born an albino, her skin a stark contrast to the deep, rich tones of the villagers. The people of Dadewa, steeped in old traditions and fearful of the unknown, were quick to brand her as cursed. Whispers spread through the village like wildfire. The elders claimed that her birth was a bad omen, that she was touched by the spirits, and that her very presence would bring misfortune. As Chidi grew, the villagers' fear turned to hostility. Children were warned not to play with her, and she was shunned by all. The market women refused to sell food to her family, and the men of the village spat on the ground whenever she passed by. Even her parents, though they loved her dearly, could not protect her from the cruel words and actions of their neighbors. Chidi's days were filled with loneliness and sorrow, her nights with tears that soaked her pillow. Years passed, and Chidi grew into a quiet, sad teenager. Then, one year, a great famine struck Dadewa. The skies turned gray, and no rain fell. The rivers dried up, the animals perished, and the fields that once fed the village were barren. The people grew desperate, and hunger gnawed at their bellies like a relentless beast. The village chief, Chief Albino, summoned the elders and ordered them to consult the oracle. The oracle, a fearsome woman with eyes clouded by the visions of the gods, listened to the elders' pleas and fell into a deep trance. When she spoke, her voice was like the crackle of dry leaves. The gods are angry. Their wrath is upon the village because of Chidi, the cursed child. Banish her, or the famine will consume you all. Fear and desperation gripped the hearts of the villagers. They gathered outside Chidi's home, torches in hand, demanding her banishment. Her parents wept as they were forced to send their daughter away. With nothing but the clothes on her back, Chidi was driven into the wild, the cries of the villagers echoing in her ears. The forest was dense and foreboding, with twisted trees that seemed to whisper her name. Days passed, and Chidi wandered aimlessly, weak from hunger and exhaustion. As night fell, she collapsed beneath a towering baobab tree, her strength all but gone. As she lay there, she heard a low, guttural growl. An evil spirit, a being of darkness and malice, slithered from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its breath was foul with the stench of decay. The spirit reached out for her, its twisted claws ready to claim her life. But just as the spirit was about to strike, a sudden burst of light flooded the clearing. The spirit recoiled, hissing in pain. From the underbrush stepped a tiny figure, no taller than a child, with a long beard and wise eyes that twinkled like stars. It was a dwarf, a guardian of the forest who had been watching Chidi all along. The dwarf had heard Chidi's soft, mournful singing and had been moved by the purity of her voice. The dwarf raised his hand, and the light grew brighter, forcing the evil spirit to retreat into the darkness. Chidi, weak and trembling, gazed up at her savior. The dwarf smiled kindly and offered her a small, glowing fruit. "Eat this, child," he said in a voice that was surprisingly deep for one so small. "It will restore your strength." Chidi took the fruit and bit into it, feeling warmth and energy flood her body. She thanked the dwarf, who introduced himself as Obi, a guardian of the ancient forest. He had been watching the village and had seen the injustice done to her. Moved by her plight, he decided to help her. "Chidi," Obi said, "you are not cursed. The villagers were wrong to treat you so. You have a gift, a voice that can calm the spirits and heal the wounded. It is time for you to return to Dadewa and show them their mistake." With renewed hope, Chidi and Obi made their way back to the village. But their journey was not over. Chidi would have to face the people who had wronged her, expose the truth, and bring healing to the land. The gods were watching, and the fate of Dadewa hung in the balance. Chidi walked beside Obi, her heart a mix of anxiety and determination. The forest, once filled with shadows that seemed to reach out for her, now felt like a sanctuary, a place where she had found an unexpected ally. As they approached the edge of the forest, the towering trees gave way to open fields, now barren and cracked from the relentless drought. The village of Dadewa lay ahead, its once bustling streets now eerily quiet, its people thin and gaunt from hunger. Obi noticed Chidi's hesitation. "Remember, Chidi," he said softly, "the power of your voice is not just in song but in the truth you carry. The villagers have lived in fear and ignorance for too long. It is time for them to see the light." Chidi nodded, gathering her courage. Together, they stepped out of the forest and into the village. As they entered, the few villagers who were outside stopped and stared, their eyes wide with shock and fear. Whispers spread quickly, and soon a crowd began to gather. Among them were Chidi's parents, Okeke and Amara, who rushed forward, tears streaming down their faces. "Chidi, my child," Amara cried, reaching out to embrace her, but Chidi held up a hand, stopping her. "Mother, father," Chidi said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her, "I have returned, not out of defiance, but because the truth must be known." The crowd murmured in confusion. Chief Albino, hearing the commotion, emerged from his compound, flanked by the elders. His face hardened as he saw Chidi standing there, alive and unharmed. "Why have you returned?" the chief demanded, his voice cold. "You were banished to save this village from the wrath of the gods." Chidi met his gaze, unflinching. "The gods have not cursed me, Chief Albino. It is your ignorance and the cruelty of this village that have brought suffering upon us all." The crowd gasped, and the chief's face darkened with anger. "How dare you speak such blasphemy? You, accursed child, dare to challenge the will of the gods?" Before Chidi could respond, Obi stepped forward, his small stature doing nothing to diminish the authority in his voice. "It is not she who challenges the gods, but you, Chief Albino, and all those who have wronged her. You have allowed fear to cloud your judgment and have cast out one of your own based on false beliefs." The villagers began to murmur among themselves, uncertainty creeping into their minds. The dwarf's presence, his words filled with wisdom and a calm power, made them question what they had always believed. Chief Albino sneered. "And who are you to speak for the gods, dwarf? You are nothing but a creature of the forest." "I am a guardian of these lands," Obi replied, his voice firm. "I have lived among the trees and spirits longer than you can imagine. I have seen the truth that you choose to ignore. Chidi's gift is not a curse, but a blessing. Her voice can heal this village, but only if you open your hearts and minds to the truth." Chidi, feeling the strength of Obi's words, began to sing. Her voice, pure and melodic, filled the air with a haunting beauty. It was a song of sorrow and hope, of pain and forgiveness. As she sang, the sky above began to change. Dark clouds gathered, and the first drops of rain began to fall, soft and cool on the dry earth. The villagers looked up in astonishment, their eyes wide with wonder. The rain intensified, drenching the parched land. The cracks in the earth began to fill, and the rivers, dry for so long, started to flow once more. The villagers, now soaked to the bone, began to weep with joy. They turned to Chidi, their eyes filled with a mixture of shame and gratitude. Chief Albino, however, was not so easily swayed. His face twisted in anger, and he pointed a trembling finger at Chidi. "This is a trick. The gods are testing us. We must not be fooled by this demon." But before he could say more, one of the elders, a wise woman named Neka, stepped forward. "No, Chief Albino," she said, her voice strong and clear. "The gods have shown us their mercy through Chidi. We were wrong to judge her. We were wrong to cast her out. It is time to make amends." The crowd began to nod in agreement, their fear of Chidi melting away in the rain. Chief Albino, seeing the tide turn against him, scowled but remained silent. Obi looked at Chidi and smiled. "You have done well, Chidi. The village is beginning to see the truth. But your journey is not yet over. There are still those who must be confronted, and the full truth of this village's suffering has yet to be revealed." Chidi nodded, understanding that the battle was far from over. The rain had brought the first signs of healing, but the deeper wounds of fear, ignorance, and prejudice would take time to mend. She would have to dig deeper, uncovering the secrets and lies that had led to her banishment. With the villagers watching, Chidi turned to Chief Albino. "The gods are not done with us, Chief. The rain is a sign of their forgiveness, but there is more to be uncovered. I will not rest until the truth is fully revealed, and this village is healed." The chief glared at her, but he said nothing, his silence a small victory for Chidi and the truth she sought. The rain continued to fall, cleansing the village of Dadewa, its people, and their hearts. Chidi stood tall, her white hair plastered against her face, but her spirit was as fierce as the storm. She knew that the rain was only the beginning. The deeper darkness still lurked beneath the surface, hidden in the hearts of those who refused to accept the truth. Chief Albino's silence was heavy with anger and resentment. He was a proud man, accustomed to the respect and fear of the villagers, and Chidi's defiance wounded his pride. The villagers, now gathered around Chidi and Obi, watched the chief, waiting to see how he would respond. His authority was waning, and he knew it. Chidi turned to the crowd, her voice calm but commanding. "The rain has come, but the gods are not yet satisfied. There is a sickness in this village, not of the body but of the spirit. We must cleanse it if we are to truly heal." The villagers murmured, uncertain and uneasy. They had suffered under the famine, but they had also lived in fear for so long that they hesitated to confront the truth. Obi stepped forward, his small figure radiating a quiet strength. "The gods are merciful, but they are also just. There are secrets in this village that must be brought to light. Chidi has suffered because of your ignorance, but she is not the only one. The spirits of the land are restless, disturbed by the injustices that have been buried for too long." Chidi nodded, her resolve firm. "I will go to the oracle. She was the one who declared me cursed, who said the gods were angry with me. It is time to confront her, to demand the truth." The villagers gasped. The oracle was feared and revered, her word taken as law. To challenge her was unthinkable. But Chidi knew that the oracle held the key to the darkness that had plagued the village. Chief Albino sneered, his eyes narrowing. "You think you can defy the oracle? She speaks for the gods. What you are proposing is blasphemy." Chidi met his gaze, unafraid. If the oracle truly speaks for the gods, then she will have nothing to fear from the truth. But if she has lied, if she has twisted their will for her own purposes, then it is she who will face their wrath. The villagers, emboldened by Chidi's courage, began to nod in agreement. They had lived in fear of the oracle for too long, and now, with the rain falling and their hope renewed, they were ready to face whatever truth might come. Chief Albino, sensing the shift in the crowd, clenched his fists. "Very well," he spat. "If you wish to confront the oracle, then do so. But know this, if you fail, if the gods strike you down for your insolence, it will prove that you were cursed all along." Chidi said nothing, her expression calm but resolute. She knew the risk she was taking, but she also knew that she could not turn back. The path to truth was fraught with danger, but it was a path she was willing to walk. Obi placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "You are not alone, Chidi. The spirits of the forest walk with you. I will go with you to the oracle's shrine." Chidi smiled gratefully at the dwarf. "Thank you, Obi. Your strength gives me courage." Together, they began the journey to the oracle's shrine, the villagers following at a respectful distance. The shrine was located at the edge of the village, where the forest met the open fields. It was an ancient place, marked by a circle of stone pillars, each one carved with symbols of the gods. At the center of the circle stood the oracle, her figure cloaked in shadow. As Chidi and Obi approached, the oracle lifted her head, her eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. "You dare to return, cursed child?" she hissed, her voice echoing through the clearing. "You dare to challenge the will of the gods?" Chidi stood firm, her heart pounding in her chest. "I challenge only the lies that have been told in their name. The gods are just, and they do not strike the innocent." The oracle's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "You think you know the will of the gods, girl? You, who have been shunned and cast out, who have brought suffering upon this village with your very existence." Obi stepped forward, his voice ringing out with authority. "It is you, oracle, who have twisted the will of the gods for your own ends. You have used fear to control this village, to turn them against one of their own. But the truth will be revealed." The oracle's eyes narrowed, and she raised her arms, chanting in a language that Chidi did not understand. The air around them grew thick with tension, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. But Chidi, drawing on the strength of her voice, began to sing. Her song was pure and strong, cutting through the darkness like a blade of light. The symbols on the stone pillars began to glow, and the trembling stopped. The oracle's chant faltered, her eyes widening in disbelief. "No, this cannot be." Chidi's song grew louder, and the light from the pillars intensified, surrounding the oracle. The villagers watched in awe as the light revealed the true form of the oracle, a withered old woman, her face twisted with bitterness and greed. "You have deceived us all," Chidi said, her voice steady. "You claimed to speak for the gods, but you spoke only for yourself. The gods do not curse the innocent, they curse those who harm them." The oracle shrieked, her voice filled with rage and fear. But the light grew brighter, and with a final agonized cry, she vanished, leaving only the echo of her scream behind. The villagers fell to their knees, overwhelmed by what they had witnessed. The shrine, once a place of fear, now stood as a testament to the power of truth and justice. Chidi, her heart still pounding, turned to Obi. "Is it over?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Obi shook his head, his expression solemn. "The oracle is gone, but her influence lingers. There are still questions to be answered, and wrongs to be righted. The path ahead is not yet clear." Chidi nodded, understanding that her journey was far from over. The village had taken its first steps toward healing, but the darkness that had taken root in their hearts would not be banished so easily. She looked out at the villagers, now rising to their feet, their faces filled with a mix of awe, guilt, and hope. They had been deceived, but they were ready to make amends. And Chidi, no longer the cursed child but a beacon of truth, would lead them. But the journey was just beginning, and the challenges ahead would test Chidi in ways she had never imagined. The villagers of Dadewa slowly dispersed, each person weighed down by the revelations of the day. The rain continued to fall, washing away the dust and dirt of their ignorance, but the deeper stains on their hearts would take longer to cleanse. Chidi stood at the now empty shrine, the weight of her journey heavy upon her. The oracle was gone, and the truth had been revealed, but the path forward was still uncertain. Obi, sensing Chidi's thoughts, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You have done well, Chidi. You have faced the darkness and brought light to your village. but the journey of healing is just beginning. Chidi nodded, her eyes distant as she gazed at the ancient stone pillars. The villagers were misled by their fear, but that fear is still inside them. They may have seen the truth, but will they truly change? Obi's wise eyes met hers. Change is a process, Chidi. It begins with awareness, then understanding, and finally, transformation. You have opened their eyes, but they must now walk the path of redemption on their own. Chidi took a deep breath, feeling the truth of Obi's words. What should I do now? Obi smiled gently. You must forgive them, Chidi. Forgiveness is the first step toward healing, both for them and for you. By forgiving them, you free yourself from the burden of their wrongs and allow the village to move forward. Chidi looked back at the village, the place that had been the source of her pain for so long. The thought of forgiving them was difficult, but she knew it was necessary. She had been their scapegoat, but she had also become their guide to the truth. To deny them forgiveness would be to deny them the chance to grow. With a sense of calm, Chidi made her way back to the village, Obi by her side. The villagers were gathered in the center of the village, waiting for her return. Their faces were a mix of guilt, hope, and uncertainty. Chief Albino, humbled by the events, stepped forward. Chidi, he began, his voice low and filled with regret, we have wronged you in ways that words cannot fully express. We let our fear and ignorance blind us, and for that, we are truly sorry. The villagers echoed his sentiment, their voices trembling with the weight of their guilt. Forgive us, Chidi. Chidi looked around at the faces of those who had once shunned her, the people who had driven her into the wild. The pain of their rejection was still fresh, but so was the understanding that they had acted out of fear, not malice. I forgive you, Chidi said, her voice clear and strong. But forgiveness alone is not enough. You must learn from this, grow from this. Fear and ignorance can destroy a community, but understanding and compassion can heal it. We must work together to build a village where no one is cast out, where no one is judged by what they cannot control. The villagers nodded, tears in their eyes, and a sense of relief washed over them. They had been given a second chance, and they would not squander it. Days turned into weeks, and the village of Dadewa began to change. The rain continued to fall, nourishing the earth, and soon the fields were green again, filled with crops ready for harvest. The rivers flowed, bringing life back to the land, and the animals returned to graze in the meadows. Chidi became a symbol of hope and resilience in the village. No longer shunned, she was embraced as a daughter of Dadewa. Her voice, once silenced by fear, was now celebrated, and she often sang to the villagers, her songs filled with the wisdom and compassion she had gained on her journey. Obi, the wise dwarf, remained by her side, guiding her and the villagers as they rebuilt their lives. Under his counsel, the villagers learned to live in harmony with the forest, respecting the spirits that dwelled there and honoring the truths they had once ignored. One day, as Chidi sat by the river, watching the sun set over the horizon, Obi joined her. You have brought great change to this village, Chidi, he said, his voice filled with pride. Chidi smiled softly. I couldn't have done it without you, Obi. You saved me when I was lost and helped me find the strength to face my fears. Obi chuckled. We all have our roles to play in the stories of our lives. Yours is just beginning, and it will be filled with many more challenges and triumphs. Chidi nodded, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. Whatever comes, I will face it with courage and compassion. Obi patted her shoulder. And that, Chidi, is the true strength of the heart. We have learnt, fear and ignorance can lead to prejudice and injustice, causing harm to both individuals and communities. However, by seeking the truth, showing courage in the face of adversity, and offering forgiveness, we can heal old wounds and build a future rooted in understanding, compassion, and unity. It is only through confronting our fears and embracing our shared humanity that we can create a world where all are valued and no one is cast aside.